that, we'll start with Matt Cushel.
Just make sure that mic's on.
All right. Hello, my name is Matt Cushel. First off, I would like to thank all the sitting board members for the work that you've done and the work you continue to do. Volunteering time to help the community is a thankless job, but without people stepping up to the challenges, we would be lost as a society. I want to acknowledge all of the community members that filed their applications for the vacant seats. I was extremely pleased with the number of great applicants that stepped up to be considered for these open positions. It really shows how much the school and community means to everyone. I do not know every one of the final 8 candidates, but I do know a lot of them, and I believe you will find 2 great individuals to fill the vacant spots, and perhaps one of them will be me. Every student should be given the opportunity to learn life skills and knowledge in a safe and fun environment. We should be providing skills and curriculum that will provide the foundation for young men and women to become prosperous adults and parents for the next generation. We need to do a better job of creating that environment and hold all students and staff accountable to the policies that are set in place. If an individual were to approach me with a request outside of the boardroom, I would listen to what they needed to say, and then I would thank them for their input and let them know I will bring it to the rest of the board for discussion and consideration. What I would not do is get into an argument over a difference of opinion. I would then do my own research of the facts and talk to the other board members to get their input. School board members are a representation of what the community wants for our education system. Board members should listen to any community member that has an opinion, even if it differs from their own personal opinion. My opinions can certainly be changed with the right arguments and facts. I believe some of the problems we have today are a result of not enforcing the policies that are currently on the books, and too much pandering to both sides instead of laying down the rules and abiding by them. I feel there are a few staff members that are allowing unruly actions as a form of protest. Why are they allowing this? What are their concerns? Have we had conversations with individual staff members and truly listened to the concerns? Are the concerns being addressed? I'm a graduate of this school system, and I either know or have had a lot of the teachers that are still here. I don't remember any of them as people that would not have respectable conversations, even with differing opinions. Would these staff members continue to allow such disruptive behavior if their voices or concerns were being addressed? I would like to think the answer is no. We need to gain the support and trust of these staff members again. If I am elected to the school board, this would be one of my primary objectives. We need to have respectful conversations based on facts and find common ground that both sides can respect. The school was created by the community. The school did not create the community. We need to listen to and abide by what the community wants. And what our community wants may be different than what another school district wants. We are governed by the State Board of Education, but the last time I checked, our school is independent, School District 726. So there should be no reason to be lockstep with any other school district deems necessary for them. We need to be thinking about our community's needs over anyone else's. From the outside looking in, not being a board member currently, the communication to the community on what the school board feels or what they are doing has been the source for so much of the outrage or misinterpretation that I see on social media or at social events in the community. In just a few of my conversations with current board members, I have learned some very good information about what is actually being done behind the scenes, that if the public had heard this same information, there may be a collective sigh of relief, or at least a feeling that our school board and our officials have a plan. I believe the school board needs to find a way to combat false accusations or interpretations that are occurring on social media. Like it or not, social media is here to stay and allows a platform for everyone to say anything they want. But I feel the school board can build trust with the community by calling out misinformation when it happens. Maybe there needs to be a social media team created to combat this misinformation when it happens. Trust is a byproduct of listening to others and to truly show that you want the best for someone. They may not always agree with your opinion, but they feel you are not out to get them. I believe everyone in the school district wants to be here to help educate our youth. The community needs transparency. They need to see that the board is listening to all sides and has the best interest in mind for all. Things done in the dark always create the most contempt. There should be nothing to hide when it comes to creating the best learning environment for our kids and teachers. Thanks for giving me the time to present today, and I wish you all the best in your decision moving forward.
There's about 9.5 minutes left, so I don't know if we have some board members have additional follow-up or. Sorry, I know the microphone wasn't on, so we about 9.5 minutes left of the time period for the first candidate here.
Matt, can you tell us a bit about, you sit on other boards?
Yeah, so I'm currently the president of the Becker Youth Wrestling Board, our Becker Booster Club for the wrestling. And I help out with the football wrestling board as well. So I do have some experience there, and I've been coaching and helping kids for the better part of 12 years in this community, growing up in this community, having 5 kids in the school district.
Ryan or you talked a little bit earlier about building trust with the teachers and staff members. Can you tell us about how you would see the relationships as they exist right now between the board, and what would you ask us to do if you were sitting here with us?
Well, right now, I guess I can't speak to what your relationship is currently with staff because I haven't been around enough to actually see that. I'm only interpreting what I'm seeing play out in the community and what I'm hearing outside of this boardroom. But I feel like if we have staff members that are not following policies, or if we have a bunch of disagreements going on, there must be something that they don't like, or we're not taking care of what their complaints or feelings need to be taken care of. And so I really feel like we need to do a better job of learning what everybody wants, or sitting down and having a conversation about that. And maybe you are, I can't speak to that fact right now.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Ryan, anything?
You said I'm good.
I was going to say, good here, but all right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm good.
We could read your lips. All right. So we'll put this a little bit ahead. So Pete Weissman, I believe you're here too. Yeah, Pete. I'm sorry, Pete. Just before you start, is Renee here or Carrie? Did they come in? Haven't come in yet. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Pete Weissman, and first, I just want to take a minute to thank the board members, Superintendent Schmidt, all the faculty for giving me this platform tonight. I also want to thank the students and the parents that have reached out to me recently, and with your support. Your calls, emails, and texts have been amazing, and I hear all of you. I'm truly honored and humbled to be your sounding board. 17 years ago, my wife and I and our firstborn decided to plant roots right here in the Becker community. And, needless to say, we have been blessed in so many ways. The friendships, bonds, memories, ball games, dance recitals will be things that will live with us always. To quote the great Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And boy, ain't that the truth. Fast forward to the present, that firstborn is going to be a senior next year. My daughter's going to be a freshman. And because we liked and loved this community and district so much, I have a kindergartner starting next year too. So, see, we liked it so much we wanted to do the whole thing all over again. My wife Danielle has been an unbelievable partner throughout this journey. She's been with me every step of the way. Well, probably a few steps in front of me, which is probably good. She's a total team player, so much so that she was nice enough to take my Minnesota Wild ticket I had for tonight off my hands, so I could be here to present in front of all of you. So she's not a real great at driving in the city. So Lord, they're on their way. Be on the lookout for him. Okay. All kidding aside, though, the point is, I'm just not someone that's looking at this whole thing from afar. I'm not someone that's just reading our newspapers and cruising social media. I'm very much on the inside here. I'm in the stands. Okay? I'm in the stands with my fellow parents of the district. I'm in the stands with our great teachers and administrators, and there are many of you. Thank you. And I'm in the stands with our wonderful kids and students too, every day. But here's the thing. Sometimes just being in the stands isn't enough. So when the opportunity presented itself to be an active member of this board, I really needed to take a hard look at it. While being in the stands has been great all these years, and it really has been, I decided maybe it's time that I need to actually get on the field. Maybe it's time to get into the trenches with all of you and roll these sleeves up. I've heard from some community members, the teachers, the parents, and many students. And it's time to get in the trenches for them. It's time to give back to this fantastic community and school district. We have work to do. Now, tonight you're going to hear from some fantastic people. People that love this community and district as much as I do. And honestly, I'm blessed to share this forum with each of them. Thank you all for stepping up. I know it's not easy. And we've all been tasked with touching on some very special, several very important topics. Topics such as how we will handle requests for community members and special interests. What's our vision for the district? What kind of challenges do we have in front of us? Questions asking us what kind of a relationship the board should have with this community. Its parents, fellow board members, the superintendent, and the students. All excellent questions. So let's dive in. First and foremost, I don't think that I'm going to have to be terribly long-winded here, okay, to cover a lot of this. The bottom line, a school board member must understand that they are a delegate for the people of the community and district. A school board member's number one goal should be to serve said community, its district, its staff, and all the students fairly and uniformly across the board. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, that is what my goal is. School board members are not there to serve special interests. Special interest groups are push personal agendas. They're just not. In my opinion, an effective school board member understands the importance of transparency and teamwork. They keep an open mind and open ears. They are honest, they have integrity, and they know going in that not all the decisions they make are going to be easy or popular ones. And then they also need to be able to stand by those decisions and answer for them when this decision is made. Now, I will always be somebody that the public can reach out to. They can call me, email me anytime. They can stop me at the gas station. They can yell at me at Dollar General. They can wave at me as they drive by my house when I'm out mowing my yard. Come grab a seat with me at the next dance competition. You're always welcome. And while I can't promise that you're always going to like my answer, I can always promise that you're going to get one from me. I'll always have an open door policy, folks. And I'll always be available to the community, staff, and the students of this district. Now, one of our biggest challenges we face here as a school board right now is restoring honor and accountability to our district. We need to gain back the trust of this community. Let's face it, there's no sugarcoating how rough things have gotten. We owe it to all of our district employees, our teachers, and students to provide them exactly what they are requesting. Safe, fair, and enjoyable learning and working environments for all. For all. Now, one of my top priorities, if I'm going to be chosen for one of these seats, is to make sure that we not only have the correct policies in place, but also that we make sure that these policies are being enforced. Now, when I say enforced, I don't just mean enforced loosely or occasionally, enforced when it's convenient, but I mean enforced every single minute of every single day. And we will enforce uniformly and fairly across the board. We will continue, folks, policy enforcement is critical to ensure every student, every staff member, and every administrator feels safe, secure, and accepted, not only in our hallways, but in all of our classrooms as well. As a board member, again, I will be accountable, available, and transparent. And here's the thing, I will expect the exact same from my fellow board members, district employees, and our students. They say it's always darkest before the dawn. Now, there's a lot of truth to that statement, but here's the thing, that's really only half the story. See, in order to really see that light at the end of the tunnel, see the light on the horizon, you have to have the right mindset. You have to be positive, have an open heart, open ears, and you have to believe. You must believe that solutions are out there. You need all those attributes to really see that light, to see the dawn, to bridge those gaps, to really connect with people. Now, if I didn't feel I had what it takes, I would not be here wasting all of your time tonight. I'd actually probably be at that wild game I told you about. Now, while there's no doubt that we have our work cut out for us, but the solutions we seek are out there. I promise you they are. I truly believe that by working together, by listening to our fellow community members, to our staff and students, those solutions will present themselves. And I'm ready to get to work. So tonight, I humbly ask for your vote for one of the open seats. And I look forward to working with each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for your time.
We have about 6 minutes. Any follow-up questions from board members? Aaron? Brian?
One question I have is based on your comments about the community and the board and superintendent, how do you feel we can regain the trust and confidence in the community to get back to the Becker School District as it was?
Sure. No, great point. Well, number one, we've got to really take the narrative back. I mean, we've got to be out front in a lot of the things that have been said about us, said about the district, said about our parents, and said about our students. We haven't done enough to protect any of these poor folks. And then what happens is you end up snowballing. This snowballs and snowballs until you can't stop the snowball anymore. So first and foremost, we have to show that we are accountable, that we can make solid and positive change. And once we do that, and once we prove it, and once people see it, that's when we start moving the needle. That's when positive change happens. That's when we can truly make a difference. So, great question.
Thank you.
Anything else? I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome notes. Well, I have one question. Did you do father-daughter dances?
So I did, actually, yes.
I thought I remember you.
4 or 5. I know I remember you. You had moves.
Yeah, I was only there about 13 years.
Yeah, you had some moves. I remember you. Actually, have one practice just for kids. So we had our first practice on Friday. Yeah, I have a lot of work to do on that as well.
Thanks, Ben. All right, we can move on to Gwen. And again, I want to check, is Renee here? Yep, no? Carrie? Haven't seen her. Okay. Ready? A little bit shorter.
Can you hear me? Hi, thank you, Becker School Board, for allowing me to be here. I also want to commend you for your continued support in the community, and thank you for continuing to be on the school board. I'll start out with the first question and just fire them off. How would you handle the request if approached by an individual or special interest group? I would first listen intently to gain understanding of what their point and motives for bringing it up was. It depends greatly on the subject matter. If it was a general and overarching comment or suggestion, I would listen and acknowledge people for their input and feedback. If it was a special interest or because of self motives, I would ask for specific information on whether or not they'd followed a chain of communication and started out with the source, right? And then move from that source to following a chain of command up to the next person. If they didn't get the desired results that they were seeking, going up the chain of command, right? And perhaps speaking to the superintendent. And then an individual board member, as an individual board member, I would remind them that I'm just an individual and all board decisions are made as a group, and they would have to address the entire board, and there's a forum in which to do that, and that's the public forum at the beginning of each board meeting. I would also remind them that it takes a unanimous vote by the board. They could also communicate via email, but as an individual, I'm not the decision-making entity. Okay. This is my by far largest question or answer, and that's in regard to vision, right? For education. And I'm a visionary. This is way too close. And I put my vision into several different buckets, right? 4 different buckets to be exact. And the first of which is climate and culture in a school district. It's of utmost importance, and it precedes all the other secondary buckets. All students need to feel safe and respected in a school district and valued as individuals. This comes before any learning can occur. The conditions for learning need to be set up for success. That means a climate free from discriminatory practices where all students, not some students, not most students, but all students, come to school ready to learn. They walk through our doors, they're fed, they feel comfortable, and they're safe. Number 2 is student learning, which means ensuring that all students are prepared for 21st century workforce, and we have instilled in them certain quality traits as a bulldog. These traits need to be developed from the first day they walk into an ECFE class until the day they go out into the workforce, and this should include the essential traits to function autonomously in society. We live in an ever-changing world, and our schools are at the heart of our community and need to be a reflection of the world around us, which means innovation and creation. This means maker spaces and collaborative problem solving in our schools, like the world evolving around our district and our children. The schools should look nothing like they did 50 to 100 years ago. They should look much like the workforce they are soon to move into. We do this by striving to foster critical thinkers, positive leaders, empathetic citizens, effective communicators, and last but not least, self-motivated community members with a sense of responsibility and ownership of what is happening around them, not victims of circumstance. Is our teaching aligned to the standards, and have we clearly defined our essentials? Are we collecting data and adjusting our instruction based on data? Are our evaluations and assessments authentic? Are they pertinent and relevant? These are questions that I ask myself when I think about my vision for the future of education. Number 3 is ensuring that a multi-tiered system of supports, or an MTSS system, is happening in our classrooms. It's my vision that we are clear and systematic on meeting the needs of all students in a tiered system. That we have continuity across the district in our approaches to learning, and we are meeting the needs of our learners that may be struggling as well as our accelerated learners. That we have a process for problem solving and intervention at each site across the district, and it's consistent. And number 4, the final bucket, is operations. And I understand that it's not the job of the board to get involved in the day-to-day operations of the district, but it is their job as a board to trust that the superintendent and administrators are hiring the best of the best people to get the job done. I believe Becker schools are the cream of the crop, and that they work as a team. We provide quality training and support and aim to achieve the highest level of employee engagement, satisfaction, and pride. And I would like to continue those high standards and support and sustain the quality of people that we are currently have in our district, as well as to ensure that we continue to hire and sustain a certain caliber of dedicated, actively engaged staff in the future. The district mission is to prepare self-directed learners to thrive in a changing global community, and we need to stand in that mission. For that to happen, we need to have the conditions for learning, meet the needs of every single student that walks through our doors, that are different. They're all different, and they have different values, and it's our job to meet the different needs of each and every student to ensure that those needs that we are providing comprehensive programming that offers authentic, hands-on experiences that prepares our learners for the world around them. We need to and are providing a designed curriculum that is guaranteed and viable, and instruction that is differentiated and is meeting the needs of all students. That's my vision for this district. Number 3, what are the current challenges facing education and school boards? And there are many. There are many challenges in education, and this is aligned directly with the things that I just mentioned. Staying relevant and nimble is critically important. To be relevant, we are continuously striving to be innovative in our challenging world. We're currently educating children for positions in our community that are yet to be defined. My granddaughter is 3, her name is Nora, and starting preschool this year, and will graduate from Becker schools in the year 2036. Her brother will graduate in 2039. We have 17 years to foster their curiosity. We can't see what that will look like, but we know that they will need to be resilient and compassionate and innovative, persistent and creative. Number 2, finance and funding is a challenge that will continue as the funding for our one-time ESSER dollars and COVID funds will be exhausted after the next year, and we'll need to be intentional and not falling off a cliff. 3 would be, we need trained professionals that are active and enthusiastic and are enthusiastic contributors in the midst of a labor shortage. 4, we have the challenge of remaining focused on learning without political distractions or polarizations getting in the way of education. We are continually spending energy on these distractions, and we need to keep the focus on student learning. We need to focus on the safety and well-being of all of our children. Question number 4, what kind of relationship should a district or the board have with its community, with its parents and families? All of these relationships should be from a perspective that acknowledges the importance of the role of a school board member as a role that represents all students and community members, not just some of them. To be present and participate in district-sponsored activities and engage in what is happening in our community. I don't voice my opinions or political views on social media, nor do I share them in the public domain. Relationships should be free from bias and adhere to district policies and procedures. I would be an ambassador of the district, and my behavior and relationships would be respectful of this. Relationships should have boundaries, integrity, and reflect the role of school ambassador regardless of the context of interaction. How can the board be accessible to the community? By first being present at board meetings and involved in listening sessions prior to board meetings, to consider participating in focus groups, to participate and be present at district events and participate in subcommittees as well as community events. Provide a presence at district staff events to acknowledge the dedication and hard work of our district staff members and students for that matter. Being available and present is how I would be accessible. How would you establish trust with your board, superintendent, and community? I would use, encourage, and promote positive messaging and use best practices in governance by having a two-way system of communication. That would be built on trust, respect, and transparency. I would do my best to be authentic in my relationships, be in integrity with my decision-making. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listening is most important. I have no hidden agenda or special interest group in my back pocket. I would just very much like to be useful and to serve my community. Trust through educated decision-making. Out of respect for the community, I would want to base my decision-making on factual and comprehensive information from multiple sources. I would try to use database practices that have evidence-based research attached to them. I would want to educate myself on all sides of an issue because there is always more to the story. I would need to look at the comprehensive picture rather than making knee-jerk or rash or uninformed decisions. I assume good intent, and 90% of the issues I encounter in my life are misunderstanding the conditions. My world is gray, and there are always other considerations to look at in decision-making. I would hope to withhold judgment or a final vote until I have all the information. I know I would need to make an educated decision, and I think this practice warrants trust. I'm not a politician, I'm a grandma who has gained some wisdom from being in education for the past 27 years. I bring a bit of perspective of what quality and growth look like in a school system. I am reasonable and innovative and resourceful, and I truly would just enjoy contributing to the community that I live in. That's it. No hidden agenda, no grandiose promises, nothing in my back pocket. I would just like to help, and I think that I could. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 2 minutes left.
I knew it. This is what the timekeeper thinking.
So, questions? Ryan? I'll ask you, you're in Princeton School District
I am.
right now?
I am. I just retired as the community ed director. I've been there 14 years. Just a little tiny bit of background, and we were talking a little bit about managing social media. I do a lot of the marketing that happens in the district. We have a consulting firm that we use called CEL, and so I've crafted messages in the past, so that might be something that's useful as well. I've overseen the American Indian Program, homeless liaisons, but all of my background in teaching is in early childhood.
I was going to ask about the early childhood piece as well, because
Yeah.
we're building that new early childhood center
I
here.
know this, and that's awesome. And my little people will be there, so that's good. So I taught as a parent educator, an ECFE teacher, and a preschool teacher for about 14 years in Big Lake. I also taught in Maple Lake at the beginning of my career, and then I moved to Princeton as the community ed director. Went back and got my admin license. And in a panic moment last week, I have 10 days left on my contract. I saw that you were looking for board members and quick filled out the application. But I really would like to serve the Becker community. I feel like I've been elsewhere and lived in this district for the last 20 years.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Rita's here, Brian is here, Carrie? Oh, she's back there, great. and Sonia was here, and Troy is here. So everybody else is here. All right. So we're ready to pick up again with Renee. So Renee, you weren't here earlier. You have 15 minutes. You can talk through the questions that you were provided, and then the board will follow up if the board has any follow-up questions or that kind of stuff. We'll go ahead and ask those. Yep, we want you to come on up to the podium, and Jeremy will be timing us, and we'll give you some cues if we get close to the end of the time. All right. So go ahead.
All right. So I'm gonna move this up. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I really appreciate it. I'll just go ahead and jump into the questions. The first one being, how would you handle requests if approached by an individual of special interest group? I think for me in general, I'd be happy to talk to anyone. Definitely through that process, ensuring I understand the request by asking several clarifying questions, including how they see the request fitting into the mission of the district, and also how they see a way of making it happen. I'd be happy to bring back a request to the board for further consideration and welcome them to attend the next public meeting. I also feel that boundaries are important, so if I'm unexpectedly confronted, I would definitely voice appreciation for their concern, and I would further respond explaining that either this is a very important concern or complex concern that I really want to allow for the proper place and time to really hear and understand the concern. And I would go about setting up some type of future appointment, either on phone, in person, that type of thing, to make sure that these conversations are taking place in the right type of a venue. I also believe that mutual respect is important to any situation. I am 100% respectful all of the time, and I expect nothing less than that from others as I engage in conversation. So if there is someone not showing respect or being irrational, I would excuse myself from further conversation at this time and encourage them to contact me at another time when they're in a better position to communicate. Okay, so I'll jump to number 2. What is your vision for education in this community? You know, I think that I personally have a lot of visions, but I think more importantly that it fits into the district vision. And, you know, right off of the website, the mission statement of this district is preparing self-directed learners to thrive in a changing global community. I think that is really the guiding light, right? Our Northern Star. We always come back to that as a mission. There's also the beliefs and the supporting statements that are just as important. And my personal fit into that is, you know, definitely the priority for me is around student achievement. That is why kids go to school. That is what we're here to help guide. Preparing our kids for the future so that they can be competitive and ready for the real world, whether that includes for them college, job, family. I think with the way the world is today, what's also really important to that, and what I see as a vision for Becker specifically, is really expanding the agile mindset of our children, making sure everybody in the community, the school, teachers, students have a growth mindset, and they're ready for digital transformation. In what I do every day, it's all around that. It's all around how fast the world is moving. It's never moved so fast, yet it will never move this slow again. And we really want to make sure that we are keeping up with that change and getting our students and our children ready for that continued change and growth, and keeping them confident enough to be able to move forward and embrace change as it happens. I think that my experience supports the idea of really taking a look at this mission statement. If it's not something we currently want to continue to be our Northern Star, maybe it's time to review that a little bit. I'm very familiar with mission, vision, philosophy. I have, for over 30 years, been involved in strategic planning and goal setting. My role professionally has been coaching and driving various activities that bring success to goals that are set. As a board, we set this vision, whatever it's going to be, and it really is the roadmap for the superintendent. So I can't express enough how important that simple sentences, that simple vision statement, because our students are a product of this community, and we want to make sure that we are always coming back to the foundation and the vision that we have together. Number 3, what are the current challenges facing education school boards? I think I could stand up here and list a bunch of stuff. I actually did a little bit of research on this, and I came across a book, Superintendents for the 21st Century. It's not just a job, it's a calling, by Paul Houston. And I was really taken aback by 2 things that he said. First of all, he talked about the killer bees. Buses, building, books, budgets, ball games, and bonds. These are important, but they definitely derail focus from the big picture, and allowing these to be the urgent issues really kind of derails the focus. And instead, he had recommended focusing on the critical C's. And this really hit home with me, especially for Becker's future. Connections, communication, collaboration, community building, child advocacy, and curricular choices. With us focused on those items, that is where I think, we take the focus away from what wattage light bulb to be buying and really how we can continue to build on our relationship as joint parties invested in our children and their future. I also, look forward to an opportunity to be a part of the Minnesota School Board Association. I feel like I have years of networking skills that I can bring to the table and use those to meet others to learn the best ways that we can support the superintendent, find those best practices that are happening across Minnesota, and bring back those best in-state ideas, whether it be for budget, funding allocation, whatever it might be. I'm really no stranger to the art of sharing best practices in a competitive corporate setting. Oftentimes, I would identify those top performing teams, call them up, and ask them, what are they doing? And share that information amongst others so we can all be successful. Moving on to number 4, what kind of a relationship should a district school board have with its community, with its parents and families? I think that it's really about building positive relationships as people. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all have feelings. We all have concerns. We also have visions and things that we want to celebrate. I think just being kind in its general form, wearing a smile, learning people's names, learning to communicate effectively, asking questions. Don't wait to talk to somebody until it becomes a problem. Showing that genuine kindness and compassion for their children. I think about my children, I have 3, all in the Becker School District. And when I think back to the teachers that I've had the best relationship with, and my favorite part of being a part of this district is those teachers that really had respected my child and loved them just as much as I did, honestly. I think a lot of parents, and I do, I have a senior this year, I look at him and I still see him as a baby. Those are important people to parents, and I think it's important that everybody honor that and respect that. I think it's also important as we think about the community, participation in school community events. I think about being where the community is. I think about the football games, the softball games, different things going on. I've seen Jeremy Schmidt at so many of those things, just being a part of us and showing his support for our kids in more than one way. I think it's important to really know what's going on in the classroom, observe those activities, take an interest in the teachers, their lessons plans, their visions, and really empower our students to get involved. I think there is, students want to be a part of decisions. They want their voices heard. I would encourage them to identify changes they want to see, research those proposed changes, and have a voice that they can bring to us for ideas, especially, when we're talking high school. There's some really smart kids with a lot of great ideas, and I think we can grow as adults if we lend an ear to some great ideas that they have and help to shape and form and guide them and mentor them in ways that will enrich both of us. I think just, really at the end of the day, it's all about treating people, the parents are like our customers when it comes to the school and the interactions. It's just really a business world is a different kind of a business, but it all does go back to just respect and being kind. And And that brings me to how can the board be accessible to the community? You know, I think that there's more to communicating than board minutes in an open forum. And I really could see an opportunity for alliance teams. And again, for those students that want to be heard, they're the ones that feel impacted by the decisions made by the school board, coming up with ways to collaborate with them. Collaborate through creation of advisory committees, focus groups, hold office hours or fireside chats. Really involve the community in decision-making, inform them about their schools, engage those non-parent communities, and I see an opportunity to create forums and channels tailored to specific audiences, to really leverage the resources that we have in this community, play off of people's strengths that we haven't thought of yet, or even collaborate with other groups, whether it's city, county, nonprofits, so many great people and organizations in this community, and I think the more we all work together and collaborate, that's going to make us more inclusive, as opposed to really sometimes focused on the loudest person in the room, or the person that has figured out the way to get all the attention, which again brings us back to derailing from the very reason why we're here. I feel very strongly as a parent, when it comes to accessibility, it's all about communication as well. I'm a big proponent of more push and less pull. And what I mean by that is, as a parent, I have to go to the website to find information. I have to go places, and I don't have time. And quite frankly, I don't know where it is half the time. I remember having to open a Facebook account about 10 years ago because I had no idea when the baseball practice was, right? So I think, again, it's finding more channels to even communicate, whether that's some type of a newsletter or an update in the weekly paper, or consistent emails. I just feel like with all of the technology, again, and the digital adoption that's happening, I feel like we could capitalize on some of that technology and really increase our communication, which will make us more accessible. Okay, and final question number 6, how would you establish trust with your board, superintendent, and community? I think that this is probably the most important task of a collective board, is really to work towards consensus about what a board does and how a board member should conduct themselves. Effective boards keep disarray to a minimum. I've seen this amongst a lot of boards that I've been involved in the past. I've been on the board for Forum of Executive Women out of St. Cloud for the last 6 years. I'm currently the past president, having served on that board, as well as some other nonprofit boards in the St. Cloud area. But at the end of the day, I've been on very effective boards, and I've also been on non-effective boards. And it all comes down to this: assume the best intentions. And that's been my takeaway from all of the board roles I've played, and have a little bit of grace, right? Everybody has stuff going on in their life. They might come across in a way they don't mean to. And at the end of the day, no matter what feelings are coming out in a certain situation, at the end of the day, there's something underneath that original situation that you need to dig into to really start to solve problems and understand each other. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that comes across as part of that asking questions and really digging deeper to establish those relationships, which are so important to be a collaborative, successful board. I personally have an unwavering commitment to progressing forward. I have a passion for people, all people, and I am just truly authentic. What you see is what you get. I'm extremely approachable, responsible, and professional.
Okay, we have just under 2 minutes left. Questions, Aaron? Connie? Brian? I have a question. You mentioned some of your serving on other boards. Can you elaborate? Because you said good ones, bad ones, that kind of stuff. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? How do boards best act?
Yeah. So I think again, it comes down to assuming the best intentions. The biggest things I've seen on boards is when we are not aligned. I think there's room for disagreement and conversation. Definitely, that's the place to have a conversation is during a board meeting. But I think the most important thing is that no matter who is not agreeing with who during that board meeting, at the end of the day, if you can walk away and be aligned, whether you totally agree or not with the final decision, it's important to support that as a board. And there's almost, just a respect, like just unwritten rule, right? That it's kind of like a brotherhood or, a sisterhood where you know that you're gonna fight, and you're gonna wrestle, and you're gonna argue about whose makeup is whose, but at the end of the day, you're brothers, you're sisters, and you bond together, you support each other. And when you're out in the community and you're representing the district or the organization or whatever it is, you have that unified approach, and there's none of that outside of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, we're, Ryan. Not you, Ryan, this Ryan.
That's right.
Wow. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Ryan Hubbard. I have 2 kids in the district here. One is a senior, and one is a freshman. They're both in high school. I've lived here my whole life. I know most of you. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to embarrass myself after that. I was thankful that Renee showed up, so I didn't have to directly follow Glenn, but I'm regretting that as well. So, hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much. I probably am not going to expound as much as they did. If I just go right into the questions, I'd appreciate you guys to ask me questions. It's hard for us, all of us, not being on a school board before, to know exactly what you guys do, and the stuff that we don't see. I know that some people say bad things, but it's hard to know until you're in that situation. So I'm going to try to do the best I can to answer these questions, but also I am much better at engaging in people. So if you can come up with any questions, I would appreciate that. At least so we can get over 5 minutes. So for the first question, how would you handle the request if approached by an individual or special interest group? Most importantly, I would listen, try to take notes if I can, if I have that with me. People just like to be heard. I've been lucky enough to have my own business for 17 years, married for 20 years, which requires no listening, which, by the way, is my 20-year anniversary today, so hopefully we can get out of here. My wife was super excited that I wasn't going to be home. So she can enjoy it. And I enjoy talking to people. For those of you that know me, this isn't what I'm good at. What I'm much better at is communicating with people, one-on-one, two-on-one, and really truly enjoy trying to work through those experiences. They do. Whether you agree with them or not, I feel they just want to be heard. And if you can help them, great. If not, we can work as a board, as a group, as a community to try to come up with a reasonable solution that benefits everyone. For the second question, my vision for education in this community, I believe there's a lot of different pieces. Curriculum is very important. I know that today, it seems like we're touching on some of the very sensitive subjects that have created a lot of problems, but I don't think we can forget why we're here. We're here to teach these children to become adults, to learn, and to become successful. So curriculum is very important, and we need to work with the state for their requirements for the curriculum, because it's my understanding that most of the curriculum is dictated by the state. So I feel like it's important to try to be involved beyond just the local school level. I also feel, everyone here, I think, agrees. I've heard this from numerous people tonight. A safe environment is very critical, and not just for kids that are my kids or my friends' kids, but every kid. And I know that there's probably people that don't know me well that might think that that's not how I feel, but I do believe the people that know me know that I truly care about everyone and feel that, that safe environment is very important. Along with, I think we need to strive to be the best. I grew up here and I stayed here because I felt like it was the best. And I still feel that we are one of the best districts there is. And not just in an environment we offer these children, but our education experience. I do feel we do a very good job. Is there room for improvement? Yes. But I'm very happy to say that I feel my kids and all of the kids in the district have an opportunity to get a good education in a safe environment. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But I do think that. For the next question, the current challenges facing education and school boards. Equality again, for not just students, but the staff. I mean, the staff is what makes the education experience work. And there's going to be different opinions, but they need to feel good. The teachers and the students and the pairs, everyone, and even the board members. It's not the board's job to work in daily operations, but, it's sad that we had 2 board members that left in the middle of their term, not for reasons other than it seems like they were upset or maybe hurt feelings. That's sad, because we are a community. Whether we get along with that person or not, they're part of our community, and we should, address those challenges. Others are staffing shortages, with the budget struggles with the new building projects that are coming up in today's market, obviously is going to be a challenge. I'm sure the word over budget is going to happen a lot. And we see that, and I'm fortunate enough in the industry I'm in to have a good understanding of that. Staffing shortages, I'm sure I've talked to many of, especially pairs, it's hard. We need more help, we can't get help, and rising wages, and meeting those needs can be challenging. So the only really other thing that I would say about that is just balancing the needs of different groups while still offering a fair environment and still dealing with the aftermath of COVID. I mean, we've got kids that are struggling with reading, and we're going to deal with that and math and everything because they didn't have a great environment at home while they were trying to learn at home. So now they're behind. So there's a lot of challenges that aren't insurmountable, but there are challenges that I think takes just the right steps to get through that. For the next question, what kind of relationship should a district and the board have with its community, with its parents and families? The relationship with the community, parents and families in the district is, I feel, probably the most important. Because if they're not happy, you're not doing your job. Whether it's a teacher not doing their job, a board not doing their job, that relationship with the family and communities, like I said, I grew up here, I've stayed here, and I stayed here because of that relationship with the community that the school has. I feel that's hugely important. And it's very much so a delicate balance, trying to ensure that people know the board has the best interest of everyone. I don't think there's anyone that's sitting there or anyone that's sitting out here, whether they're speaking tonight or they're just in the audience, they don't have bad intentions. There might be misunderstandings, but I don't think, and maybe that's me, I tend to be a little bit of an optimist. I just think everyone is a good person. They just need to sometimes find it. So, I think any situation, whether it's in my work or if it's with the school board, I like to think that people know that I'm genuine, open, and honest. And I think for those of you that know me, I hope that you would feel that way. For the next question, being accessible to the community, I believe that it should be known that through email, text, or phone calls, any member should be accessible, and people should feel that they can communicate with them. Because after all, that's your job. You're representing the community to govern the school. And I think that people should feel that they can approach you if they see you out in public, you know, at the grocery store or community event. And I think I have approached every one of you and talked to you, whether it's at a grocery store or at a football game. And I appreciate that, and I think that's what we need to have. Because people need to know who's working for them. The last question, how would you establish trust with your board, superintendent, and community? Trust, I think it's a simple answer. You just need to be honest and sincere. And in my years of experience in business and in life and in dealing with my kids, you know, I do think that's one of my better qualities or attributes. You know, we currently have 50 people on our staff, and in 17 years, we've lost maybe 2 employees. I would like to think that that shows our ability, my wife's ability to work with people to solve the situations. Because everyone comes from a different background, everyone comes from a different spot and has a different goal, and it can be reached whether you start far apart or you start close. There's no reason that people can't get along, everybody can't get along. And it is, I think, very sad that so many areas of our life today, whether it's because of social media or people trying to have the loudest voice in the room rather than just get along and work together. With that, I did make it at least a few minutes.
Yeah, there's just under 4 minutes left. So we did talk for more than 5 minutes. Questions, Sharon?
I don't have any.
You're not gonna help out. Ryan's? Okay, so it's up to me to help you out, huh? Can you talk about, your involvement with, either sports or those types of things in the school district?
Yep, so I mean, I actually coached with Matt, and Renee, our boys play football together. We do a lot, maybe not as much with the school, we're present, we're around. My job, for the most part, has limited my ability to be involved in a lot of that stuff. Fortunately, in the past few years, we've started to change and grow, which has freed my ability up, which I felt like was a perfect time for me right now that I've got much more flexibility than I've ever had. We don't, so I haven't been involved in a lot of boards and a lot of different things like that. But we also try to engage the community with our business. Obviously, I feel it's good for business, but we like to give back. This community has been great to me and my family. So we've always tried with Dylan's Hope Foundation, with sports. We try to do what we can. People knock on the door all the time looking for donations or help or whatever. So we try really hard to be involved in the community and give back every time we can, which is why I'm here.
Anything? Good. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
we're up to Carrie.
Alright, so first, I just wanted to say, you guys have blown me away already, the 3 that I got to watch, so I'm honored to be a part of the top 8, thank you for that. I'm Carrie Rickard, I'm 35, I know I look like I'm 12, but I'm an adult, I swear. I have 6 kids, next year I'll have kids at the high school, the middle school, the intermediate school, the primary school, and 2 twins at home still that are 1 year old. So I sell pageant dresses on Facebook. I know that sounds made up, but it's real. My husband's a stay-at-home dad. That's what we do. I've been in education over 20 years. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational management. And in about 2 days, I'm gonna have a master's in educational studies. I started out as a TA reading to younger kids when I was in 5th grade. My heart's always been in early education. But my senior year of high school, I did my first student teaching experience in a sophomore high school history class. All the kids were saying, oh, where do you go to college? I go here. And they're like, no, like, where do you go to school? I go here, I'm on your track team. So that was interesting. In the Army, I taught groups of soldiers anything from first aid classes to classroom classes. I was in the Army 8.5 years. I taught preschool, and I was the program supervisor for a school of 95 students. What that means is I had students anywhere from birth to 12. Most of them were birth to about kindergarten. And for me, I believe every student can learn. We had kids that were super, like, the most textbook autistic that you can get. And I was able to get them the opportunity to show what they had learned, what they could learn, and actually pass assessments for kindergarten. I don't know how many times teachers would call and be like, they said that they passed the assessment at preschool, but we can't get them to perform here at the school. And I'm like, okay, well, you just sent them into this building that they've never been to before, sat them in a little chair, and some adult said, perform. Like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work for most students. It's definitely not gonna work for special needs students. So I believe that every student can learn. I also believe that every student has special needs. Every student has special needs. What does that mean? Does it mean they have special needs in math? Does it mean they have special needs at home? It doesn't matter. Every student can learn, and every student has special needs. Continuing on, I've coached t-ball, soccer, basketball, volleyball. I've subbed for cheer and gymnastics, and as soon as I learn how to skate, I plan on coaching hockey too. I've done student teaching in 1st grade and kindergarten. Last year during COVID, I was a building substitute in Big Lake, and that's just because they got me first. I went to work one day in a kindergarten class. It was my first day in that district. It was my first day in that building. And the principal kept coming in and she was like, are you okay? Are you okay? Because the teacher before in kindergarten was usually a middle school teacher. And so she's like, kindergartners. And I was like, oh no, I'm used to preschoolers. Kindergarten is easy. No fires, no floods. I got this. Same amount of kids that I started with. It's going to be a great day. And so she went back to her office, and before lunch that day, she had called her district and said, we have a sub in this building that gets early ed. I don't want to let her leave. They created another building sub position for me for that year, and they offered me the job before I left that day at 2 o'clock. It was great. I worked in 1st grade a lot. I love 1st grade. I love kindergarten. When they closed for COVID and went to distance learning, I moved to preschool. Preschool was outside for half the day and inside for half the days, and it was very cold, but it was a lot of fun working there in Big Lake. I worked a lot with special ed students, given my philosophy of education. They thought that was a good fit, and so I was pregnant with my twins at the time, and so halfway through the year I moved to the intermediate school there, and I worked mostly with special education there at that school. I've subbed in Becker classes from kindergarten through high school. I volunteered in nearly every grade level through high school, whether it's here in Becker or back in Washington where I'm from. I taught my oldest 3 how to read before they went to kindergarten, and that wasn't because I wanted to say, oh, I taught my kids how to read. It was more of they were ready, and I wanted them to be able to worry about everything else once they got to the classroom. I wanted them to know that they had time to make friends, that they had time to get to know the teacher, to get to learn routines instead of having to learn knowledge right when they started kindergarten, especially because my kids went from staying at home to all of a sudden being thrown into the kindergarten atmosphere. So that's my oldest 3 kids. My youngest 3 kids, I have intentions of teaching them how to read. They're all under 3 right now though, so I'm not really dealing with that, but I am teaching them. I'm learning too. Sign language because my youngest son has hearing loss. So I'm learning and teaching them at the same time. If anybody looked at my Facebook page before I showed up here today. I have a whole bunch of videos of my almost 3-year-old learning how to sign. He doesn't really talk very much, and so signing has been a way of helping him speak too. So with all that being said, I could literally write a book on my vision of education in this community. As part of my master's program, I've written over 60 papers on different aspects of exactly that. I believe every student can learn. I believe that if a student is falling off the track to graduate, that's the track's fault, not the student. When you're a kid, it's the time to be a kid. It's the time to learn how you learn. I know for me, I can't sit in a classroom and have people talk at me. That's not how I learn. I learn by doing things. I learn by watching somebody and then repeating that and having them critique me and going from there. And so when I was in high school, I used to sew in one of my math classes. And it's because I could sew and listen to her. And then when I went back to go take a test, I would remember where I was sewing. And it would click in my head, like, oh yeah, this is how you did this equation. My teacher was totally fine. I didn't disrupt the class at all with it. And she just allowed me to do that as part of my own education. I really wish that there was a way of students to be on a path to graduate, even if it's their own path, with or without an IEP. If they have the skills and can show the knowledge without taking a test, if they can do something else, like proving competencies versus a grade on a test, then I think that should be honored as a way of showing that they are meeting educational standards. Math being taught from a vocational standpoint, maybe. Not all kids are college bound. I know Becker has a huge percentage that goes to college. I know that they have a huge percentage that goes into the military. Not everything that we teach in school, and especially high school, is real world applicable for those students who aren't college bound. Testing through actions versus testing on paper. Yeah, I could go on and on with my vision for education. If you have any questions, feel free at any time. I worked at the Department of Revenue for about half a decade in Washington. I was often sent to high stakes meetings in Olympia by my boss because she knew that I would go representing our office, but mostly I was going to represent the taxpayers of Washington. And I wasn't afraid of standing up for what I thought was best for them, not necessarily myself. I could tell the governor, I could tell the director how I felt about a certain policy or procedure. I could tell them how it was going to affect our office, but I could also tell them how it would affect the taxpayers. And so she trusted me to have the department and the taxpayers' best interests at heart, and so she would send me to those meetings instead of going herself. So that brings me to the school board appointment. School boards across the country are being blasted in the news for CRT-related curriculum, to mask mandates, to protest during meetings. School boards are being forced to follow a vocal minority and being tortured by the public for not agreeing with or implementing the wishes of the few. I don't think the political punching bag is what the school district or what the school board is supposed to be. That doesn't mean that you're accessible to the community if people can just come in and scream and yell and beat you up all the time for what you're doing or what they think that you're doing. I think that one of my student mentors, we were talking about this meeting today, and she said, like, oh man, it's gonna be nuts here in Michigan. We have the school board calls each other names and they drop F-bombs and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that does not happen in our town. And she says she goes to several meetings where that happens, and that's not the time and place. The name calling is silly. It doesn't belong anywhere. So I think, well, school boards mostly hear from adult teachers, adult administrators, adult lawmakers, adult parents. First and foremost, the kids come first, always. What I think is best for my own kids might not be best for my neighbor's kids. What my daughter experiences at Becker High School might not be the same as what our superintendent's daughter experiences, even though they're on the same volleyball team. Student safety is always my top priority. Like I said when I was in the kindergarten class, no fires, no floods, same amount of kids, it's a great day. So Safety in schools can look a little different depending on the grade levels, but it's always the top priority. So like I said, in kindergarten, no fires and floods. In high school, it can be anywhere from, I mean, there's a group of kids here in Becker that think that they're not safe because of their sexual or gender orientation. I'm not sure how true that is. I can speak for my own daughter's experience. She doesn't feel like she's unsafe in school. That doesn't mean that somebody else does not feel that same way. So, let's see. I think that sometimes teachers, admins, bus drivers, they forget that those little creatures that they get assigned to every year, they're someone's whole world. Someone who just because of where they live sends their students off to school every day, to strangers to educate them, but also care for them, to care about them. High schoolers may be shaped inside like adults, but to their parents, and definitely in their brains, they're still those cute little girls in pigtails or the boys who like to pull on them. They didn't pick the teachers. They didn't pick the principal. They didn't get to have any say in it. They're trusting the school board to make good decisions, that the school hires fantastic teachers and caring and patient bus drivers and lunch ladies and everything else. They need to know that whoever their children, their whole world gets randomly assigned, that it was a good choice, that it was the right choice. How would I establish trust in the school board? Let me remind you, I have a child at every single school in Becker. I'm in it for the long game. I have 17 years remaining of my own kids going through the district, let alone any future grandkids. Last year, one of the Becker principals accused me of holding teachers to too high of standards. And I still stand by my standards today. It doesn't mean that I would fire anybody for being perfect or write up anybody for being perfect. But I wouldn't set the bar any lower than perfection for people who I send my kids, your kids, to school with for 7+ hours every single day. With all that being said, requests from individuals should always be heard. Maybe that's as far as the request ever goes, but it needs to still be heard. I know the Princeton police chief told me one time that he has a guy that comes in every Tuesday to complain about the week's problems that he's had, and so he sets a timer and he says, you have 4 minutes, go. And when the timer goes off, he says, okay, thank you, and he turns around and walks out. He's at least heard. He just wants to be heard. That's all it is. And so maybe you don't get on the agenda, maybe you do. A school board member's own political agenda should never be the reason that they're on the board, and that's how they should act while they're on the board. The school board needs to be accessible to the community, parents, and families, while always serving with the students' best interest at heart. The school board already posts minutes and videos of their meetings on the website. They allow individuals and groups to come speak at meetings regardless of political agenda. What else can we do? You should ask people, do you know where to find the school board minutes? Do you know how to read the school board minutes? Not everybody does. And so not everybody has time to come to this, but the meetings are usually the same time. Okay. Be accessible. That's all that. So as a member of this community, as a person who's probably suffered a child or coached their team, a person who's incredibly experienced and educated in various aspects of education and leadership, I believe I'm the right person for this position. Maybe you want somebody who loudly supports the same political agenda as you, whichever team you're on. That is not going to be me. I am here for the kids. All the kids, every kid, present and future. If you have any questions, be quick. He's trying to ask.
Brian? Oh, I think I'm good too.
You're good.
What did you say you do? I missed that at the very beginning.
I sell pageant dresses on Facebook.
Pageant dresses.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you on any boards?
I keep having babies, so I'm finally done. That's it. We're good. I got my twins. So I'm just starting. I'm getting my master's literally this weekend, and I'm ready to start using it. So.
Thank you. All right. We're at Sonia.
Let's see if I have anything to add. You're done.
A few of us were joking a little bit back there, just how impressive everyone's been so far. Well, we had our break, and then after break had even more impressive people speaking, so that's great. I think that we are all very lucky that so many people took this interest. So if you don't know who I am, I do know a lot of you, but some I don't. And I'm weirdly nervous, that's not who I am, actually. But my name's Sonia Cox. I've spent most of my life living here in Becker. I did leave for a while. For some reason I came back. It was not the weather, Went to California for school. But I came back because I love this community. I wanted to have a family here. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be involved. And so that's who I am, and that's why I'm here tonight. Couple things about myself. Me and my husband have 3 kids, just like many of the other people that are here tonight. They're all in the Becker School District. We're all involved with sports, hopefully as they get older, and a lot of different other things and aspects of life. So I'm going to be around for a while, maybe not as long as Carrie, because my youngest is in the primary. But I would love to be here for them throughout, whether it is with a position on the school board or in any other aspect, I'm going to be around. When I heard about the open positions, I was encouraged by both family and friends to put in an application. It has been something that I've thought of in the past to be on a school board. I did go to school for education. I have a secondary credential in social studies. I was never fortunate enough to actually get a teaching position here in Minnesota. My California credential did not transfer over, but I was lucky enough to come back and sub for some amazing teachers here in Becker. And to that point, and kind of who I am and why I am here, is because the teachers that I knew growing up here and that I had really shaped everything about me. And I wanted to be a teacher because of them. And so that's why I'm back, and would be very honored to keep having a say in our education system here. So when I looked at these questions, and I thought of with 8 of us here tonight, and I saw 6 questions, I was kind of expecting this to happen, where a lot of us were going to say the same thing. So I kind of put some of my questions together and figured if I got that 5 minutes, kind of like Ryan was talking about, then I'd be good. So the first question, how would I handle requests from any individuals or special interest groups? And then I kind of grouped that with how can the board be accessible to individuals in the community and these interest groups? And along with everyone else here tonight, listening is obviously going to be the key to any communication between parents, students, staff, members, each other. I would basically always be accessible because I feel like I'm pretty present in the community. You can approach me anywhere you see me, email, anything like that. If you don't know this about me, and I did put it in my application before, I'm teaching a lot of your kids how to drive. I own reckless driving. So even though I'm not a traditional teacher in the school district, I still get the opportunity to work with a lot of kids and parents and get to have open conversations with them as well. As far as school board membership goes, I do believe, obviously, that it is a board for a reason. So that one individual is not making all of the decisions for the community. So when an individual or a special interest group would approach me outside of the board, I would listen and make sure that we brought that back, had a discussion, did some research, and just overall the transparency, which I think most of us use the word transparency, that we had that open dialogue with everybody involved. My vision for education. There was one thing I still had left that no one had brought up. Well, not necessarily, but then Ryan did. I think my vision for education kind of goes towards what happened over the last couple of years with COVID. Our world got flipped upside down. Everybody's did. And it's not just Becker, not just the United States, the entire world. So I think what we need to do as far as our vision is to kind of get back to basics a little bit. Get our kids back and focus more in the educational aspect. I grew up believing, and I was taught also, that public school systems were put in place to teach children how to become good citizens, to go out and to be successful. And now that we are all back in the school after COVID, we need to kind of get back to that basic education. Create the good citizenship, and try to help all of our students get to the point where they can contribute to society. And what does that look like? Every person is going to be different. Whether it's going to be college or trade school, the military, going straight to work. Some of these things are overlooked sometimes in the traditional system. And we really have to look at that we need all these different types of students to go into the world, and to have the building blocks here in our school system to make them successful. I think our vision should also be that when we make student achievement the primary focus, then it's all better for everybody, and our students especially. So, what challenges, number 3, the question, facing school boards and education? I think we all know that there's been some times lately that it's been stressful for school board, not just our school board, but all across the country. We see it on the news. And I think it's going to be really hard until we all really do listen to each other and have honest conversations without people yelling from either viewpoint on any circumstance, because you can't run a school successfully when you let political and social issues become the forefront of education, okay? Because that's just going to be divisive. There's going to be people on either side that are, quite frankly, never going to agree, but we can agree that we want the best for kids, for all of our students, because that's all anyone wants. If somebody is upset and they're being loud and coming at the school board from whatever viewpoint they are, it's because they want their kids to have the best case scenario for themselves and to be successful, to be safe, and to graduate and to go into the world knowing who they are, or be able to share their experiences in a positive light. We're never going to make everybody happy. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. However, we can make sure that we can have good discussions without having all the divisive language, and to polarize people, okay? Everyone is in it for education, for the system. All right. And then I kind of grouped the couple questions together. What kind of relationship should the board have with its community and families? How do you establish trust with parents, the community, and the superintendent? I think we as school board members, if I was chosen, or someday in the future I would run again possibly, we are responsible really to the public and the people that elected us. So it's vital that the school board, that we maintain open communication with the community, with the parents. And then also we can't forget that part of the school board's job is to make decisions about some aspect of curriculum, school buildings and maintenance, budgets, and we can do all this together as long as we are consulting with parents, teachers, the community, and the taxpayers. How would I be there for the community? Basically just being present at all meetings, functions that I was asked to, and if I were to be asked questions, that we would have an open dialogue and go from there. And I can bring it back to the board if it's outside of the, outside of the meetings. I apologize. But anyways, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And like I said, I really think that we have great choices here, and I'm just happy to be one of them. So.
We have about 5 minutes left. All right. So you made it 10 minutes instead of.
All right.
Brian? Shaking their head. I don't know if you you said or didn't say, did you say anything about serving on other boards? Have you served on any other boards?
I was on the wrestling board for 2 years with Matt, and other people, obviously. And then outside of that, no, I have not been, so.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yep.
And we're last but not least, right, Troy?
Hi, my name is Troy Burney. Let me first start off by saying I do not envy you guys whatsoever. I've just been blown away by everybody here. There's been some great candidates. And frankly, I think my job here is to make Ryan and Gwen look good. I really don't know if I'll get 5 minutes. We'll go through the questions. I'll let you know what I think and why I'm here. But yeah, you guys got some tough choices coming at you. So, but that's really, really good for our community. I mean, if you think about it. So I think I'm going to start before I get into the questions. Is just tell you a little bit about myself, because I've been a member of the community for 20 years. My wife and I have raised our kids here. 3 of them are graduates from the Becker schools. One of them is still here, sophomore. Think very highly of the schools. My kids have went on and done very well in various activities throughout or after they've graduated. So I have that. I've been a coach. I coached both my sons' baseball teams, one of them up through U14, which, a plug, we went undefeated that year, all the way through the tournament. One of the greatest accomplishments I've ever had. As a father, I also have been on the wrestling board. I was a member and president of the wrestling board for many years, much like others in here, sensing a theme. Also participated in ECFE for a while as a representative of the wrestling board. So, been involved a little bit there. As far as work, this is what makes me a little different than I think most, but not all, of the candidates. I don't have a strong educational background. That's really not where I come up. I'm from the business community. I'm in IT, which is probably why you won't hear me talk, definitely not in the full 15 minutes. Those of us in that industry know that we're kind of quiet people. But I think that offers something to the board that maybe it's lacking, maybe it's not, but it's very much a business focused, is how I approach things. It's very logical. I've heard many people say it, I've said it here, I assume the best intentions in everybody, right? So I always assume that even if what you say I hear as offensive, well, they didn't say it that way. It's coming from somewhere, they're trying to do their best, I'm trying to do my best. I often start off the meetings that I have that if I say something that's offensive to you, or that could be offensive to you, or could be taken as not offensive, please know that I meant it the not offensive way. And I think if we all took that approach, we'd get along a little better. Along with that background in business and in corporations, I'm in meetings all day, every day. I've been on numerous different boards within the meetings, architecture review boards. I currently have staff, we have staff meetings, work on things like that. One of the differences that I think is a little bit different than this type of board is this will sound bad, but
We'll take it with the best intentions.
Yeah, the best intentions, exactly. We don't always reach consensus. You have to drive for it, you have to be okay with not reaching consensus. Because sometimes, what you think is best isn't going to be there. And I've worked in corporations where they have a consensus mentality, and so the meetings go on forever and nothing gets done. That's not really my style. I believe in hearing everybody. I think everybody comes at meeting and deserves to be heard. But in the end, we're here to take a vote, and we're here to get things done. We have a job to do. And not everybody in the room is going to like us when that job's done. And we also have not only a right, but a responsibility to speak up for the community. We are representatives of the community. They elected us to represent them. And it's our job to do that. So the problem with that is the community is not one person. It's a big group. So you have to look at that and you do your best. But in the end, not everybody's going to be happy. And you got to be able to deal with that. Do your best for the community and for the schools. So I think that's a little bit of a background on me, who I am, where I'm coming from. I do want to call out and say, Gwen, If I say anything, don't take it out on Abigail, she's in your class, I think. She's learning to drive right now.
It's so.
Sony, sorry,
She's like,
Gwen.
wait a minute.
Sorry, Gwen, Sony,
It's okay.
please don't take it out on Abigail. Okay, so we get to the questions. How would you handle a request from an individual or a special interest group? Pretty much the same thing you've heard from everybody tonight. Be open, honest, have communication, talk to them, understand where they're coming from, what they have. The one twist I put on it is I do think as a board member, we have to always be really careful because again, we represent the community and we're in the public eye, which means we can't do anything that even has the appearance of being unethical. So where you want to be open and honest to everybody, if you're approached by a special interest group that has business in front of the board, maybe has a bid in front of the board, you know, we have an RFP out, we have to be careful. So, yep, open, honest communication, but it's like, you know what, this really needs to be done in front of the board. Let's do it in an open forum. Here's the next school board meeting. Here's where you talk. If you need to get on the agenda, hey, I can get you in touch with the chairman who can get you on the agenda. But it might not be the right place and time for me and you to have a one-on-one conversation about what's really is board business. So that's something I think we all have to keep in mind. Vision for education. I've heard some great visions for education out here. And like I said, I don't have an educational background, so mine's a little simple. And it's basically that I think we have a right and duty to provide that safe, welcoming, educational environment for all. And where safe and welcoming are probably the two top thing in there. We do have to remember it's an educational environment. So I think that's important too. We are not out of respect to the students or the teachers. But if you listen, act logically, lay out your reasons for why you're doing what you're doing, and vote your consciences, then you'll have the respect and the trust. What's the relationship should the district and board have with the community? We've talked a lot about this. We need to be open and honest, transparent, and we're representatives of the community. There's no real other way to say that. The community should know what we're doing, why we're doing it. There's nothing, well, with maybe the exception of some security things that have to be discussed not out in the open, everything else should be out in the open. But we have nothing to hide here. We have a vision, we have a direction that we're trying to help set for the school and provide support for the superintendent and teachers. And the parents should know that, the community should know that. How can the board be accessible? So I've heard a couple different things on that. I think I fall down on the aspect of, I think the board is pretty accessible. I mean, think about it, these meetings are open, they're advertised. Last meeting I attended, we voted to continue open streaming. So if you can't be in the audience, you can tune in and you can listen. Every board meeting's recorded. If you go out to the website, when I had some curiosity, I went out there, I watched 2 or 3 of them. You can get up to speed pretty quick. So I think you guys have done a better job than what most people give you credit for. In addition to those things, some things you might want to consider, and I've heard these tonight too, is being in the community. Becker Freedom Days. Why don't we have a Q&A session on Becker Freedom Days where people walking by can come talk to their board members? I would say it probably needs to be moderated, but we could do something like that. How about a special board meeting once a year is meet the board. And doesn't have an agenda that's school focused, but it's all about, hey, we're the board, we're here, we represent you, come ask us questions. That's the one way we could do it too. The other thing, and this probably blends into my background a little bit more, we could do some work on the website. It could use some effort. For instance, I clicked on board goals and I'm like, cool, I want to know what that is. It's protected. So you can't read it. There's a link there, but you can't get to it. Probably could do a little better job there. But again, that's technology. All very fixable. So, anyway, that's kind of my thing on accessibility.
Google Docs.
No more Google Docs. You gotta open them up. But it's, I did hear people, and I don't disagree about the push. Like when I was running the wrestling board, we used, broadcast email all the time. So all of our parents knew exactly when practices were, what we were doing, anything's changing, boom, all the time. My son hit high school wrestling. I was freaking clueless. As a parent, I didn't know that. I didn't know when practice was. I didn't know what the meet were. I didn't know where it was supposed to be. So I'm not opposed to the push mechanism because that does really work effectively. But I also believe the community, as much as we're there to represent them, they have a part to play here too. You can't spoon feed everything. They have to step up. If they want to know, they can find out the information. Website's out there, it's not too tough. So that's kind of on accessibility. I think we need to do it, but I think the community has a job there too. Establishing trust. I thought about this, I'm like, well, how do I establish trust with anybody? I totally blew the fact that I wasn't going to talk long. So I think with establishing trust, I just say it's be open and honest in all things, word and deed. You need to mean what you say and say what you mean. If you do that in a very logical, laid out way, people may not like what you have to say, but they'll trust you and they'll respect you. And I think that's about all you're going to be able to get, because you're never going to make everybody happy. Not everybody's going to like you. But if you're open, honest, say what you mean what you say, lay it out in a logical way, do a lot. So again, you guys, enormous responsibility here. You have a great field of candidates. I'd love to come on and help you guys. If I'm not chosen, I know that you made a great choice, because I don't know how you make it happen tonight. So, thank you. Oh, and do you have any questions?
Any questions? You have about 6 seconds. No? See how much time you can fill up?
Exactly. Just keep going.
Great.
All right,
Thank you, Troy.
thank you guys.